Hey, welcome back to Trinity, and for this edition of Trinity in 20. Today, we have a real treat for us. Some of you may know, some of you may be aware, that we here at Trinity participate in this program with Connect Allen County, casually entitled Handing Out Hope, right? Is that?
On the third Wednesday.
On the third Wednesday of the month. But then, on the other Wednesdays of the month, there's this whole program of a food truck from Just Neighbors comes down, parks in our parking lot, in the Washington Boulevard parking lot, and cooks food, and we welcome people from the neighborhood, from the community, the people who are around us. Sometimes their lives are more at risk than some of us sometimes feel, but opportunity for conversation, for community, but also some friends of ours come as well, and they are part of what is called, the acronym is the HEART Team, Hope and Recovery, and they are part of Fort Wayne Police Department. And their job is to participate in hope and recovery for neighbors, people who sometimes call the city their home, and literally the streets of the city are their home. And so they came in off of the parking lot and to talk with us. And we are blessed to have Darcy and Jeremy and Sam here with us who, we just wanted to talk a little bit with them about their work and what's it like to be in the parking lot of a church and be on the inside of a church, because their work is very close to the work that we do in many, many ways. So, and Janet, our own Janet Altmeyer, is one of the people who interacts with them the most. So.
And we are so excited about this partnership because for as long as I have been here, and that's since 2009, we have been working with the police department to become additionally present with the people that we interact with from our neighborhood. And we could not be more grateful and excited about partnering with all four of you. One of our participants is not with us this morning, but we are so grateful because our philosophies seem so intertwined and consistent with each other. And Darcy, can you tell us a little bit about why it's important for the Fort Wayne Police Department to have social workers working with officers?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is officers are have to do 5 million jobs all in one time. They go call to call to call, and they never know what they're gonna interact with or what to expect. So we're able to kind of help with the follow-up because they just don't have time. But we can also help with folks with substance use disorder and mental health issues. So that's our main focus, is trying to get them connected to resources and empower them to make their own decisions and empower them to, either get sober or maybe they're not ready yet. That's okay. That's what we will do, is just come and meet them where they're at with the Hope and Recovery team. So I think it's really beneficial. We can connect the community to the officers and start having maybe some of those really uncomfortable conversations that need to happen because maybe there's just a lack of understanding from the community to the officers.
Yes, and that message is so important because the trusting relationships are a big part of people considering getting into recovery programs. And Sam, can you speak with us just a little bit about why the recovery piece is so important to the HEART team?
So part of one of our big things that we focus on is something called harm reduction. So that is, like Darcy said, meeting the client where they're at in their recovery. So that could look like a vast idea of what that looks like for every person. It's different for everyone.
Sam, could you tell us a little bit about what harm reduction is?
So a lot of times the mentality with recovery is you have to be sober, and you have to be sober 100% of the time. And sometimes that doesn't work for every person. So harm reduction is kind of taking a step back and seeing, how can you reduce your harm? What does that look like? So we do that all the time in cars with seatbelts. That's harm reduction, You wear your seatbelt, you are more safe than you would be if you didn't wear your seatbelt. So kind of taking that mentality and applying that to recovery. So a large part of why it's important for us to work with the police department as well, is that we are trying to keep people out of jail. That's like one of our biggest goals, is to get them help and get them recovery and get them support instead of just putting them in jail and then having them repeat that cycle over and over again. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why recovery is so important. Did I answer your question? Is that okay? Okay.
Now you know. I mean, really, harm reduction is really the goal of a church. I mean, in its broadest sense, I mean, look, there are certain things you do in your life, and people hear me say, or I'll say afterwards, so how do you think that was going to work out for you? But that sense of, how do we, all of us, I mean, that's our business as well.
Very much. And
Yeah.
we also think that sometimes with the concept of police officers, that there is one notion, I think, of, as you said, Sam, putting people in jail, arresting people, that's the goal. But Jeremy, can you speak a little bit more to what your philosophy is, especially considering harm reduction, but also the fact that you're not wearing an official uniform per se, and why you and your partner present the way that you do on the street as part of street connection and street outreach?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest thing is people seem to be intimidated by the uniform, and I think that's part of why we are in a uniform, so we kind of present an authority to it. But we wanted to meet people kind of on a level playing field. That way they didn't feel like we were in charge. Because when we go out and talk to people, and we meet them where they're at, we go to their house. We don't wait for them to come to the hospital or anything else. We meet them at their front doorstep, and we want to be on a level playing field with them. So we don't want, guns and handcuffs and, police identifiers all over, because that's what they seem to focus on. And, when Sam was talking about, we are arresting, we've noticed for years now that the police aren't out there in a bad form of, there is times we have to take people to jail, and there are times when someone, does something, that's what needs to happen. But our ultimate goal has always been to help people. Sometimes that's at the cost of incarceration, but we've noticed with the amount of, overdoses and stuff like that happening, not only in our community, but across the United States, that taking them to jail, letting them sit there for a day, couple weeks or whatever, wasn't getting what they needed. And my partner Jeff said it best, is, you can't arrest your way out of substance abuse. So but he'll also tell you that the people that are dealing these drugs probably do still need to go to jail. So we noticed when we went out in the community, at least one surprising thing to me was that a lot of people know what they want and know what they need to do. They just need that hand from the community or whatever, whoever's out there to help get them started on their path. And they were really, really surprised that we would meet them at the door and come to them and, kind of taken back, like, you guys care enough about me to come to my house and offer me things, because there's a lot of different programs out there, and we're trying to fit the best program that fits them. We don't sell them anything. We just ask them, what do you guys want, and how do we get you there?
Very good.
How many people do you interact with on a daily or weekly? I know that there's some variance.
So we have noticed that there is a increase of people who are calling our voicemail, so the heartline that we have. That voicemail goes straight to everyone on the heart team, so we can listen to it and then assess who the best person is to help that person and whatever their needs are. Because sometimes it's housing, sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it is recovery treatment. It just kind of depends on where that person is at and what they need in that moment. And so we have partnered with so many community resources in Fort Wayne to make sure we know where to point them when they come to us with a problem. And so obviously Trinity English is one of our greatest partners that we have. And I think we are partnered with probably over 30 now in Fort Wayne. Over 60, wow, I'm behind. Over 60 partnerships in Fort Wayne. And I think that's one thing that people do not know about Fort Wayne is that we are a very resource-rich community and city. I mean, I grew up here and lived here my whole life, and I had no idea until I had this job. So that's something really cool that Darcy and I have been able to do in our year of employment now with the department is just connect the department with community resources with the community themselves, and the full circle of just connecting everyone together. So honestly, during the summer months, we see a lot more people call in, and then during the winter, it kind of slows down a little bit. But it just depends. Every day is different. But I mean, it's hundreds of people all the time. It just depends on the day. Like this last week, we had multiple calls and we were nonstop. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah. Something that's kind of an observation, and I'd invite you to, any of you to kind of jump off onto, and we said something about this before we began, that there's been a conversation in the United States about policing over the last couple of years. And it's not hard to acknowledge that policing is hard work, always has been hard work. It has become harder work. But part of that conversation has included the need for things like what you all are doing. And that the need for, Jeremy, as you said, not always the exhibition of power and authority, but the extending concern, and it feels a little bit like as we've talked, and you've been present here at Trinity, and we've had the opportunity to know you all, that in some ways our community is maybe on the cutting edge of what that conversation has been nationally, but here in our community, we're at maybe more at the front edge of that. Interestingly, Fort Wayne, Indiana, we're at the front edge of something, but we're at the, maybe more at that edge of what that need really is within. And that's not like, it's more of an observation. I don't know if you have anything to offer to that, but it feels like that.
Well, we are just part of the message of our having the Trinity in 20 interacting with the HEART team, Hope and Recovery team, Fort Wayne Police Department, is that we support you. This congregation is praying with and for you, for your safety, for the services you provide, for the compassion you present, for the kind heart and humor and good nature that you carry with you throughout our community. We support you all. And we're so very grateful that when we have someone come to our church who is in need of getting access to services and perhaps might be experiencing a personal crisis, that we can call you because we know that they will be cared for compassionately and get the help that they are seeking or that they are needing in that moment. And that is a huge blessing to us here at Trinity and also to our community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and we would want you to know, that we're glad you're here. We're glad you're in our parking lot, in our building, that in our space, because what you're doing aligns with how we understand human beings, how we understand the needs of our community, and that how do we support those people in our community who are working at that things in ways that we personally can't, but are an extension of, of our very work here.
And very creatively, I might add.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Anything, do you all have anything extra you want to add?
I just want to tell you that when you brought up kind of how the police have been perceived and everything else, that I've been a police officer for a little over 20 years now, and the last 5 years has definitely come with its challenges. And the one thing I noticed is I get thanked a lot more for the job that I really get paid for, but I don't ever look at it as people should be thanking me. In the last 5 years, I have been thanked more for coming to work than I have in the previous 15. And I always tell them that it really does take the community, everyone coming together, helping out where help needs to be done, and kind of doing the right thing. So, you know, it's something that the police just can't handle alone, or social workers, but it's the help from people who will open their doors like you guys and, you know, really kind of address the community problem as a community. That really is what I've noticed that helps, you know. So I don't think one department or one, you know, partner in this community can handle everything. It's all of us working together as a community. It makes the community a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, you were talking about like connection, right, and how that's so important. We all work together. So we have a saying that, you know, the opposite of recovery is connection, or addiction is connection. Sorry, yeah, the opposite of addiction is connection. So, and I think we've all touched on it, but a lot of times, like you said, people know what they need to do. They know the steps that they need to take to recover, and getting connected and having that support. And having multiple people in the community who are all there rooting for them, I think is super important too. And I mean, police social workers, it's still a very new position, even in the social work field. A lot of my cohort members from grad school had no idea what it was, you know. And I mean, I didn't really either when I first applied for the job. But it has been such a cool experience and such an awesome position. It's been one of my favorite positions I've had. And I've been a social worker for like 6 years now. So it's really cool to see how this partnership has developed over the year that we've been here. And I just think it's awesome that we are able to connect the Fort Wayne community resources and just help people. I've seen a huge difference in this year that we've been here.
You know, I have a friend in London, a guy named Sam Wells, and he's a pastor in London. And one of the things he says, and I think that touches on what you're saying, is that God never imagined us as heroes who go it alone, but God imagines us as a community. I mean, we were always intended to be a community of people, not as heroes who are asked to go it alone. I mean, for you all, you know, the same thing for a church community, for people who sit in the pews, for people who come, you know, looking for help. We were never intended by God to go it alone, to be on our own, to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We were intended to be a community of people who are together. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Pulling each other up by our straps to be a community. You know, that's what that is. So it's great to be with you. We hope that if any of you have an opportunity or are free on a Wednesday, late morning, early afternoon, if you want to come down and talk with our friends, talk with anybody who comes to our space on Wednesday, we would love to have you come on down. But we also want you to know that on our Sunday morning worship, we do remember you all in our prayers and the work that you do, as do your other colleagues who work for the public good, and that you're part of our community. And we would hope that you always know that you're a part of our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah, stay safe. God's peace be with you. Come on in anytime. And if people are driving you out of your mind, come on in. It's a great space. We do have candy in a box somewhere, so please, by all means, come on in and be with us. And thank you for being with us, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Have a great week.